Now, if you had asked me at the start of the season which players I thought had to leave the club because they didn't suit the style or philosophy that Ten Hag was bringing to the club, then Aaron Wan-Bissaka would be near the top of that list. However, after domestic football returned after the World Cup and Diego Dalot was on the sidelines for a bit, we saw Aaron Wan-Bissaka able to get his first real significant run of games under Erik Ten Hag. And it's fair to say he impressed, and not just defensively. Wan-Bissaka was always a very good defensive fullback. We've known this for quite some time, even during his time at Crystal Palace, with him being what I would like to define as a specialist. But before I go any further, let me tell you about the sponsor of today's video, footballteamgame.com, a free-to-play football manager browser game which allows you to feel the thrill of the online leagues. You can join the game, create your team, improve your stadium, customize your athlete and train. You can also open up packs to collect, upgrade and trade items in order to become the best. If this sounds like a game that you'd like to play, you can register from the link in the description to get 200 energy points just to start. So once again, click the link in the description to try it out, because footballteamgame.com is waiting for you. Now, of course everyone knows what a specialist is, but what do I mean by it in this context? Well, in order to play any different role on the football pitch, you need a number of different skills and attributes. However, some players are much better with certain attributes and skills to such a high level that it pretty much defines their whole game. And this is definitely the case with Wambasaka, who I would say is a one-on-one defending specialist. We saw his defensive performance against Mbappe in the Champions League a few seasons back, and even when he has been underperforming in other areas, he's shown his tackling ability to such a high degree that you could quite possibly make a case that Gareth Southgate could have potentially taken Wambasaka to the World Cup because of how good a one-on-one defender he is. But the problem in Wambasaka's game was always in possession. For a player who used to be a winger and was converted to a right back, he doesn't really have that winger-like technique, not being as slick and composed when he receives the ball under pressure, and having quite a clunky aesthetic. Throughout the last few seasons, whenever Wambasaka would receive the ball under pressure, as a United fan you would always get nervous, always anticipating that he may lose the ball, as he never really seems 100% comfortable or in control of possession. And so even the simple things like when it came to moving the ball quickly with a series of short first time passes, being able to shift the ball quickly from one foot to the other in congested zones, or finding forward passes to break the press, Wambasaka always underwhelmed. However, since his run of games after the World Cup, it appears he's massively improved all of these areas, being much better at shifting the ball quickly to evade pressure, getting the ball under control a lot quicker with fewer touches, and overall just circulating the ball a lot more efficiently. He's still got that clunky aesthetic, but he's getting the job done, not being as technically efficient as someone like Diego Dalot, but compared to the Wambasaka we saw under Rangnick and Solskjaer, it seems like Ten Hag's been able to massively improve Wambasaka's ability to progress the ball in the defensive and middle thirds. And this improved ability on the ball has led to Wambasaka having some very good performances over the last few games, with his performance in the Manchester derby a fantastic example. And so when I was preparing for a video looking at who Manchester United should potentially be looking to sign at right back come the summer, I started to debate whether Wambasaka has managed to play himself back in favour for that spot, competing alongside Dalot to be United's first choice right back. Now, it has to be said, despite his massive improvement over the last few games, there are still some major deficiencies in Wambasaka's game that he needs to improve in order to be a long-term option for United. And when we look at his FBref report over the last 365 days, where he's played around 900 minutes, we can definitely see this a lot clearer. So as you can see, for his passes into the final third, he ranks only in the 39th percentile, whilst ranking in just the 5th percentile for his passes into the penalty area, 15th for his crosses into the penalty area, and 6th for his overall progressive passes. Combine this with the fact that he only ranks in the 37th percentile for his XG assisted, and isn't really a goal scoring threat either, and you can see that in possession Wambasaka is very limited, not being great when it comes to progressing the ball into the final third via his passes, or having significant chance creating ability when in the final third. However, surprisingly to me at least, Wambasaka looks like he's a very good progressor of the ball when the ball is solely at his feet, ranking in the 97th percentile for his dribbles completed and having a dribble success rate of 63%, which actually ranks in the 95th percentile, showing not only that Wambasaka is completing a lot of dribbles, but he's also incredibly efficient when doing so, completing a very high percentage of the dribbles he attempts. And I actually think this high dribble success rate comes from his unorthodox technique, as he's very unpredictable when he receives the ball to feet, making it hard for opposition players to anticipate his next move. And so when he shifts the ball quickly and is able to use his burst of acceleration to drive the ball forward, he is able to progress the ball past pressing players, which is definitely something that Ten Hag will be looking for, especially on that right side as teams look to squeeze United in. Having a fullback like Wambasaka who can beat his man and drive the attack forward into the middle and final thirds is hugely valuable. but it's obviously defensively where Wambasaka comes into his own. He ranks in the 57th percentile for the amount of dribblers he's tackled, the 80th percentile for the percentage of dribblers he's tackled, also only being dribbled past around 0.55 times per 90, which ranks in the 71st percentile, and only contesting 1.65 dribblers per 90, which ranks in the 40th percentile, showing that whilst Wambasaka is an excellent one-on-one defender, he does pick and choose these moments to engage the player, being very composed and patient and waiting for the right time to exert aggressive pressure, and then ultimately putting a tackle from which he is usually successful. But it's when you look at his overall tackles completed and the areas of the pitch where he is doing this where he does look outstanding. He ranks in the 98th percentile for his overall tackles won, ranking in the 81st percentile for his tackles in the attacking third, in the 84th for his tackles in the middle third, and the 99th percentile for his tackles in the defensive third, showing that pretty much anywhere on the pitch, Wambasaka is guaranteed to be putting in a high amount of tackles. And when the opposition do get into United's defensive third, Wambasaka is not only going to be putting in a high volume of tackles, but also percentage-wise, he's highly successful with those as well. And so it's easy when we look at these kind of metrics why I would define Wambasaka as a one-on-one specialist. And this is why he's been able to put in big performances in big games against the world's best players. Because when you isolate a fullback to sheer one-on-one defending ability, ignoring anything else, you'd probably have to say that Wambasaka is the best one-on-one defender in world football. And so if Manchester United had a massive game coming up, say against PSG in the Champions League next season, setting up Wambasaka against Mbappe on that left side, or maybe Rafael Leao for AC Milan, something like that, then I think you see where Wambasaka's inherent value in the squad comes from. Maybe fullbacks like Malo Gusto, Jeremy Frimpong and Pedro Porro would all be a lot more valuable than Wambasaka in games where United have possession, but a fullback's ability to progress the ball and then create chances in the final third is a lot more important. However, because I would say that big games carry considerably more importance than just your average league game, for example, I do think Wambasaka's ability to perform better than all of these players in these certain big games not only gives him a massive edge, but also makes him stand out as a specialist. And so I think you can make the case that it is worth keeping Aaron Wan-Bissaka in the squad, specifically for his specialist defensive ability in games where it matters most. And this type of performance, giving United a victory, could be the difference between Ten Hag winning trophies at United and doing well but missing out at the latter stages. Kyle Walker is another player who I do think has this specialist defensive ability, with his pace, physicality, defensive awareness and tackling ability making him a feared opponent for any winger in the world. And we saw this when France played England during the World Cup, as soon as the fixture was announced, Walker was being touted as a man who was perfect for nullifying Mbappe. And you'd have to say that throughout this game, Walker did an excellent job of doing this. But even though I think I've made a pretty good case for Ten Hag keeping Wambasaka at the club next season, I think his lack of ball playing ability, particularly in the big games, becomes a major deficiency for Ten Hag's system as a whole. We saw this against Arsenal, where there were a number of different occasions where Arsenal were able to isolate Wambasaka with the press, and in the lead up to Arsenal's equaliser, it was Aaron Wambasaka who got caught on the ball and dispossessed in his own defensive third, and just throughout the game and throughout other games especially, he's just not at the level that someone like Luke Shaw or even Diego Dalot is. And so whilst I do think that Wambasaka could still be a very good player for a top side, I just think he doesn't suit what Ten Hag needs in a right back. And so because of this, his strengths can't really outweigh his deficiencies. And so come the summer, I do think United should try to move on Wambasaka and find an improvement on him. So let me know what you think of Wambasaka in the comment section below. Check out some of my other videos, including the other episodes of this series, which will be linked in the description. Give the video a like and subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you do get notified when my videos come out.